Okay.
Let's just say Carolina had the worst record. They would get kicked out of the league and kicked down a league below, and they would have to fight their way back.
These days, certain parts of Hollywood are dead silent, and the people who've been paying attention are in shock. Rob McElhenney has apparently pulled back the curtain on a secret plan involving his friend Ryan Reynolds and Ryan's wife, Blake Lively. Rumors have been bouncing around for a few weeks about some kind of master plan cooked up by this picture-perfect pair. But until Rob spoke up, nobody could figure out exactly what was going on. It's especially surprising because Rob and Ryan are known for their warmth and funny chemistry, thanks to their joint projects that turned them into a fan-favorite comedy duo. Now the whole entertainment scene is trying to understand this increasingly strange situation. If Rob's story is even partly true, it seems like the glossy exterior of Ryan and Blake's private lives might be hiding way more intrigue than anyone could have guessed. Early whispers about tension between Ryan and Blake started off like normal Hollywood gossip. Insiders hinted that there was some sort of complicated vibe going on behind the scenes, particularly about Blake's part in the upcoming movie adaptation of the novel It Ends With Us, directed and co-written by Justin Baldoni. On the surface, everything looked golden. This was a major moment for Blake, a chance to really shine in a movie that promised a lot of emotional depth. When the film was first announced, everyone talked about how committed she was and how her star power would boost the movie's marketing. And because Ryan is known as such a supportive husband, people just assumed he was totally on board. Plus, their playful back and forth on social media made it look like things were smooth sailing. But behind that picture-perfect front, something else was going on. Rob McElhenney, who's respected for being pretty straightforward, started hearing stories that didn't fit the usual Hollywood rumor mill. According to Rob, there was a whole elaborate plan in the works, something more involved than a regular behind-the-scenes disagreement. At first, Rob didn't believe Ryan, someone he thought was a true friend, could be part of something so calculated. After all, they got along great in their comedic projects and clearly respected each other. But as more details trickled in, Rob realized the puzzle pieces were actually fitting together, and he couldn't just brush it aside. In private chats, he hinted that he'd eventually spill the beans if things went too far. When filming for It Ends With Us kicked off, there were early reports of friction between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Some people said Blake found his directing style too restrictive.
Well, I love romance. I'm a hopeless romantic. Romance is like everywhere in my life, but I had never read a romance novel, and I didn't understand why. And I'm sure a part of that has to do with my unconscious subscription to the man box and I shouldn't, that's not manly. But I read this novel and I couldn't even finish it.
Especially because Justin wasn't just the director and co-writer, he was also acting in the movie and had influence over everything. Fans at first shrugged and said, well, that's Hollywood, since big personalities often clash. But then the rumors dialed up a notch. There were hints that someone close to Blake was slipping negative info to tabloids, making Justin look bad. Initially, people assumed Blake was just defending herself. Now, thanks to Rob's shocking claims, that assumption has been turned on its head. Rob says Ryan and Blake orchestrated the entire situation as part of a bigger strategy. In their view, the movie's success, mixed with some sneaky moves, could boost Blake's standing in Hollywood if the public saw her as a misunderstood actress stuck in a tough situation. The more the tabloids ate up the drama, the more attention the project got, and the easier it would be for Blake to shape the story in her favor. Rob claims Ryan used his connections in the industry to keep the gossip machine buzzing, while making sure Blake still came across as a victim. It's a jaw-dropping accusation that changes the narrative entirely. Instead of standing by, Ryan might have been helping to carry out the secret plan, all while playing the goofy, supportive husband in public. Word got around about Rob's perspective when he decided to talk to a trusted entertainment writer after hearing about leaked text messages that showed private chats between Blake, Ryan, and other big players in the production. In these messages, Blake talked about using her dragons, a phrase some people think refers to her tight circle of high-powered friends, with Ryan leading the pack to control what happened in post-production, how the press was handled, and how people would react to the film. The text painted a picture of a plan that was less about protecting Blake's interests and more about staging a scenario where she'd always look like the hero, no matter what was really going on behind the scenes. Naturally, Rob felt betrayed. He thought Ryan was a real friend and admired Blake's talent and sense of humor. Finding out they might have been plotting to twist the media narrative left him stunned. He tried to deny it at first, but as more texts and stories from the film's crew piled up, he had to face the truth. He confided in other friends, who said they too were uneasy about the rumors. Finally, as more evidence surfaced, Rob decided the only real solution was to go public and share what he knew, hoping that honesty would stop any more damage, especially to people who had no idea they were getting roped into this mess. Rob's statements made it clear that normal day-to-day disagreements on a movie set are one thing, but he was seeing something more planned out here. He pointed to timed leaks that portrayed Justin Baldoni as a difficult person to work with. Headlines hinted Justin was violating Blake's personal boundaries and disregarding her postpartum needs.
It's a bit of a tough adjustment in our house, but it's good. I mean, I have two other daughters, so my oldest is very into the baby, but my middle child, not so much. But we're thinking of keeping her.
Does she like play with her? What does she think?
Well, she sort of like pretends to play with her. So like in the beginning, our oldest is like loving on her, and she's like very maternal, and then our middle daughter is just keeps away from her.
Rob says these claims, at least some of them, were pumped up by Ryan behind the scenes. He thinks the couple realized that if Blake got enough sympathy, it would not only push her to a new level of star power, but also overshadow any mistakes she'd made in her career. And on top of that, the movie would benefit from all the publicity. According to Rob, while Hollywood is no stranger to PR schemes, it's rare to see them carried out in such a choreographed way. He also connected this to older Hollywood controversies, like the Amber Heard situation, a case where someone's public image shifted dramatically once conflicting evidence came to light. Bringing up Amber Heard's name is interesting because it highlights a pattern. First, the public sides with a female star who claims she's been treated unfairly. Later, new proof surfaces that makes people rethink their initial stance. The details aren't identical, of course, but the overall vibe is the same. Contradictory messages, confusion about who said what, and the possibility of people using the media to push their own agendas. What's really shocking here is the suggestion that Ryan Reynolds, generally seen as this charming, funny guy, could be helping orchestrate such a complicated plan. It's definitely not something most fans ever saw coming. Rob says he tried to handle things in private, asking Ryan to clear up the rumors swirling around him and Blake. But as more text messages and first-hand accounts popped up, it started looking like there was indeed a deliberate spin on events, and that it went way beyond just pushing a certain narrative here or there. Rob even claims that part of the plan involved building relationships with certain tabloids and entertainment bloggers to keep the story alive. Some production assistants from It Ends With Us came forward anonymously, describing an atmosphere where they were told to keep quiet if they saw inconsistencies in the gossip. A few said things got tense whenever Justin tried to talk about the rumors directly, because, according to Rob, it was in Blake and Ryan's best interest to keep the drama simmering in the media. The full text threads were another big turning point. Early on, Blake had shared heavily edited screenshots that made her look like she was constantly under pressure, begging Justin for understanding. She described the set as so tough that she felt isolated and disrespected. A lot of fans believed her and felt sorry for her, especially since actresses returning to work after major personal life events often face extra challenges. But Rob helped reveal the full versions of those conversations, which showed that Blake was actually the one who sometimes invited certain interactions and didn't voice any objections at the time. From Rob's perspective, those full messages prove that the ones Blake released were carefully clipped to make her look wronged.
I was making I don't know, juice with there was this maple water on set, and I was like, oh, water tapped from a maple tree. This is exciting. But instead of just handing him a plastic red cup that I was drinking out of, I went and got the martini glass, a crystal glass, and shook it up for him properly, because you can't hand that man a red cup.
No.
And so he's standing on a dock with mud around, and he's holding a crystal martini glass. It was just juice and maple water.
It fit perfectly, Rob says, into the larger plan he believes Ryan was helping her pull off. One of the most shocking claims is how Ryan might have used his Hollywood clout to influence the film's post-production. Rob insists that because Ryan has built up a strong network, thanks to his comedic persona and big partnerships, he could gently sway certain edits to spotlight Blake's performance in the best possible way. He could also push the marketing to focus on a narrative of Blake conquers adversity. If they managed it right, the final movie could end up highlighting Blake's resilience, drowning out the negativity that was spreading behind the scenes. Justin Baldoni, on the other hand, would end up looking like the controlling bad guy, even though Rob believes Justin was just trying to keep things running smoothly and didn't realize he was a target in this supposed plan. Things hit a serious boiling point when Blake's lawyer abruptly withdrew from representing her. The official statement was vague, but it hinted that Blake hadn't been giving a consistent version of events. At first, Ryan and Blake tried to spin the attorney's departure as a typical Hollywood change of strategy, but insiders started whispering that something bigger was going on. Rob claims the lawyer saw the unedited messages and realized Blake's public statements didn't match the actual conversations, so the lawyer's decision to quit carried a lot more weight than just a routine parting of ways. It also made Rob's accusations sound a lot more believable to those who thought Blake might be playing fast and loose with the facts. By this point, Rob was convinced the plan, what some people are calling an evil plan, was more than just spin. It was a full-scale operation with two main goals: boost Blake's star power with a wave of public sympathy, and secure a prosperous future for both her and Ryan as Hollywood's ultimate power couple. Rob sees parallels with other big controversies that made some stars even more famous, though it often came with a lot of negative buzz. He thinks that while these schemes might work for a while, they can completely unravel when people realize they're being manipulated. Justin Baldoni responded in a calm, almost laid-back way. He encouraged anyone interested to check out the full, unedited messages and decide for themselves what really happened. Rob points out that this method of showing everything is often what bursts the bubble of manufactured narratives. Once the complete picture is out there, it's hard to keep pushing a story that leaves out inconvenient details. That's also, according to Rob, why Blake and Ryan's plan started falling apart when these texts became public, and it's probably around that time that their lawyer quit, unwilling to stand by a client whose account didn't match real evidence. After that, the crew working on It Ends With Us began sharing their own experiences. Some gave interviews or posted on social media about what they saw. A few described days when Blake was lovely and cooperative, followed by sudden mood swings that took everyone by surprise.
I think most actors' dream is to be able to do a period piece film, but I got to do an every period piece film because this dates back to 1908 till now. So to explore the different decades, the fashion, the hair and makeup, and just how women were treated in each of those different eras.
Others remembered trying to resolve minor issues, only to see those very same incidents blown up into huge tabloid stories. Rob believes that this back-and-forth behavior was actually strategic. It fueled just enough confusion and drama to keep fans and the media glued to the story. The more muddled it got, the easier it was to push the storyline that Blake was being hounded by an unsympathetic director, until the unedited texts came along and painted a different picture. For a lot of people following the celebrity scene, the fact that Rob is the one coming forward is maybe the biggest shock. He could have kept quiet and avoided damaging his relationship with a close friend and business partner. But he obviously felt he had to come clean, saying that truth should come before friendship when people's reputations and jobs are at stake. Some admire Rob for telling it straight. Others think he's stirring the pot and risking even more harm. Fans of Ryan and Blake argue that maybe Rob is misunderstanding what really happened, or blowing it out of proportion, which could drag everyone down. But a lot of people applaud him for shedding light on what they see as a really cynical tactic. It's hard not to see the parallels to Amber Heard's controversies. Both cases had alleged media manipulation, incomplete evidence at first, and then a massive backlash when more information emerged. In each situation, the public flipped from fully supportive to highly skeptical. People who initially believed in one narrative felt betrayed when conflicting messages surfaced, suggesting they might have been misled from the start. But there's a key difference here. Rob McElhenney is acting almost like a whistleblower, someone who used to be aligned with Ryan and Blake, but is now lifting the lid on what they've been doing behind the curtain. In Amber Heard's story, things played out more through official legal channels and court battles. But here, it's a friend-turned-critic telling the world what he supposedly discovered. As of now, Ryan and Blake aren't saying much about Rob's claims, which has people guessing they're in major damage control mode. Some insiders think they're working overtime to figure out how to respond, maybe hiring new lawyers or prepping statements that could soften the blow. But the fact that their original lawyer quit still looms large. It's a glaring sign that this might not be the kind of issue you can just cover up with a PR campaign. Fans who once loved their funny social media exchanges and sweet public appearances are now digging through old interviews for clues.
And we went into the audition and he signed in, and then the casting director came out and said, "Blake?" And Eric said, "Yep, that's her." And I just thought I was gonna die. And she said, "We don't have you on our call sheet." And he said, "Oh," and he put his agency's name. And so I auditioned, and I didn't know what to say in that moment. I was 16, and my brother had just written my name on a piece of paper, and they were looking at me, so I walked in the room and did the audition.
Did Ryan and Blake drop any hints about this potential secret plan? Did Rob and Ryan's on-screen friendship mask a deeper rift? The fallout is spreading beyond just this movie. Some producers are reportedly nervous about bringing Ryan and Blake onto new projects if this negativity keeps swirling around them. Industry experts say that fear could get worse if there's more proof that they planned this whole drama from the start. A few executives point out that while Hollywood often tolerates a little chaos, since drama does bring publicity, this kind of orchestrated chaos might be a step too far. Trust can be hard to rebuild once people think you're manipulating everyone. Rob worries that the couple's carefully built brand, their down-to-earth humor and relatable family life, could crack under this kind of scrutiny, putting future deals and endorsement opportunities at risk. Of course, maybe Ryan and Blake will put up a strong defense. Maybe they have evidence that challenges Rob's claims, or they'll say they only took certain actions because Justin Baldoni forced their hand. But Rob is backing the release of these complete, unedited conversations, which means any counter-argument would have to explain some glaring inconsistencies. Hollywood observers note that once a close friend publicly accuses you of masterminding an entire scandal, complete with references to dragons and behind-the-scenes schemes, it's tough to bounce back and look squeaky clean. Meanwhile, the connections to Amber Heard's saga serve as a reminder that public opinion can shift multiple times. People who originally stood by Blake and Ryan may still be hoping there's a different story out there. They say Hollywood can be tough, and sometimes celebs make big PR moves that aren't necessarily malicious. There's also a chance Rob might have misread strategic decisions, like how to handle press leaks, as something more sinister. If that's the case, this entire blow-up might be a huge series of misunderstandings. But for now, the spotlight is squarely on them, and it's anyone's guess how they'll handle it. Some fans are crossing their fingers that the couple will come forward with proof they didn't try to manipulate the story. Others trust Rob 100%, given his track record of being honest and fair. Either way, it's impossible not to see the parallels to other massive Hollywood scandals. Maybe the big takeaway is how easily even the most down-to-earth seeming celebrities can have deeper motives. Or maybe Ryan and Blake will show that Rob completely misread their actions, and that none of this was some evil scheme. For now, the truth is murky. But one thing's for sure. By speaking up, Rob McElhenney has dragged Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively into a spotlight that could reshape their careers for a long time to come.